few questions and answers, put these guys on the spot. So I'd be interested in your questions.
David, just as a question on the casino, as a mixed-use development, you talked about restaurants, is there retail or any other sort of lifestyle-based offerings or amenities within the building or adjacent to the building that sort of complements the casino?
Phil, there's not in the current expansion project. However, Station Street, which we saw a vision of driving down, has a Walker Corp development on the east side of that. I think there's definitely opportunity to build ground level retail in there, and I think as a precinct again, that whole precinct working together, there's great opportunity to get the kind of supporting retail that casinos often provide. I think that can work together. That's obviously takes vision from both parties, but I think there's definitely opportunity there. Already that street has become more activated with the insertion of some new cafes and restaurants that open out onto that street. Sky City have already undertaken that work in their existing building, but definitely there's potential in the precinct to do that. There's just not the capacity in our expansion site. It's due to commence construction. There's some early works middle of the year, commence construction towards the end of the year, and a 2-year program. I might add, sorry, Phil, on that point, I didn't dwell too much on the connection with the railway concourse level. Again, it's not part of our brief at the moment, but the works we're undertaking will set up some retail space off that concourse, which is probably more suited to food and beverage, but there's definitely opportunity there also to capture the passing trade and bring people up into the main casino building through there.
But primarily it's an F&B sort of entertainment and leisure type precinct.
That's right, yeah.
Kiyoyoshi, the railway lines in Tokyo, are they government owned or mainly privately owned, and do they make a profit or is it?
In Tokyo, in Japan, originally there are a lot of private railway companies and also railway company owned by government. But almost 15 years ago, railway company owned by government become private railway company. So we had a lot of TOD project after that, you know.
I've got a couple of questions on that same theme, I guess. I'm interested in the density associated with the Tama Plaza. You touched on density as an important element, so are there any parallels for Melbourne in terms of the Tama Plaza?
You say regarding the plaza or something?
The Tama Plaza, you'd mentioned the density around that, and I'll go one further. You also talked about the zoning code change, and I'm interested in both those elements.
I understand. I see. Yeah, in the Tama Plaza project, we provide a lot of new facilities and also the plaza inside the station. And after for that project, we need change the government regulation for the diversity buildings, you know. So government negotiation we need to do, and after that we change the government regulation. So probably in Melbourne also we need to change some regulation, especially someone mentioned about the nodes or something. We need to change to the diversity land use development, I think.
Is that a complex process to change that zoning code?
Yeah. There are a lot of difficulties, so we are using city planning schemes in Japan. So it takes a little bit times, but we negotiate with government and also the living peoples. So after that, we can get a conclusion for changing the land use regulations.
How long is a little bit of time?
Up to the project, this morning I present some examples. It takes over 20 years, but, but it is a very longest project. Recently, it shortened the length of the negotiation. So, Shibuya project, almost we started from year 2002, and Hikarie started year 2007. So, big master plan we planned, but it takes almost 2 or 3 years for that, you know. After that, we draw the drawings for the architecture materials. So, time is shorter than before, you know.
Any questions from the floor? Go, Stephen.
I have another question for Okumori-san about long-term planning. I think he said, please confirm, that Shibuya Station had the Sky Malls with extra allocation for future development so that they can turn into a receiving area for something else. If that's the case, how did you manage to maintain the strength in the columns and the money to spend on that expansion zone in the middle of a building?
Yeah, because land cost in Tokyo is very high. So especially adjacent to the station or on the station, land cost is the highest in the Tokyo. So we utilize land very vertically. It takes some cost, especially the structural cost. But our client want to provide cultural facilities on the station. It, how can I say, have a big synergy to the to change the cities. So it takes some cost, but we can pay about that, you know.
Oh, we've got 2 questions. We'll go with one at the front. Hold your one.
Okumori-san, with a development like the Shibuya redevelopment, is there any government funding involved in a development of that scale, or is it all entirely privately funded?
Yes, as I mentioned about the infrastructure development, so we are using some infrastructure development scheme. It has some subsidy from the government. So we make a big plaza or squares. So based on that, we get some subsidy from the government. And also, but also relating the station, we get some subsidy from the government. But not so many portion. So mainly invested by railway company or private developers. Almost the ratio is under the 10 or 15% from the government.
Apologies, David. My question is also for Okumori-san. The reputation of the Japanese is one that puts them leading the world in development and innovations in both the technology and the development sectors. Mixed use, as discussed today, has been designating mixed uses within a same zone, building or precinct. The Japanese have for a long time implemented change of use.
Yes.
So in one space, modifying the use
Yes.
within their residential quarters most typically. Is that something that is being seen to be applied in the mixed use, so that the future flexibility or the change of use in your mixed use developments in Japan?
So, let me think. Especially in surrounding areas, land use code mainly for the housings. But I, as explained my presentation, some nodes or some crossing railway point has a high values. So we provide some new regeneration project for that. And government will agree of that, So after that, we can change the code or some things. And so after that, such as Tama Plaza station, it changed a lot compared with before. It is okay? Sorry.
Have we got other questions? I've got one for David, so he doesn't feel left out. So you talked about the long gestation from 2010, and I'm well aware of that because we've been waiting for this project for a little while now. Is it just the casino related that's led to that long gestation from initial concept or ideas, master planning to now, or are there other lessons that can be learnt and applied more broadly in terms of planning and development of a project like that?
I guess I indicated that the legislative change that's involved with the gaming licence that's granted to the operator there, that has to go through Parliament. There was a change of government through that process, so that did take time. Also, our client, of course, has to arrive at the right business case for the development, and I guess through that period of time, the economic cycle meant they had to think long and hard about what the right mix was, how much they could, how much their business could invest there on the return to get a return. So that consideration also took a long time. The planning process, I think, was a well-managed process over there. They have a government architect and a design review panel process who makes a recommendation to the Development Application Commission. That process was quite long because the project scale changed a number of times through that period. But I think it is typical of, in my experience, typical of casino developments, which are obviously very sensitive in the public sphere, that they do take a long time to get to the point where the button gets pushed.
Okay, last chance, folks. Oh, here we go.
Kiyoshi, the Shibuya project is very complicated. Is that under single ownership? Is it a single developer, or is it multi-developers?
Shibuya developed by multi-developers. So mainly developed by railway company such as Japan Railway, Tokyo Railway Corporation, and Tokyo Metropolitan Underground Railways. And also the other real estate developer joined. But mainly work done by private railway companies. Because we move a lot of stations to make a new round for development. So it takes a long time, but it make a big values from that,
How are we going, folks? We're starting to think about those drinks and canapes. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for participating today. We've certainly been fortunate to have such a high-quality lineup of speakers, including Ian and Okumori-san, who've both flew in for this event. So I hope this symposium has provoked some thoughts on how mixed-use developments will become an increasingly important development solution. Now there is a door prize I have to get to as well. I've got gifts for our speakers, so we'll do those. Which one are you grabbing, Wayne? We'll go with the gifts. For Okumori, Dave doesn't get anything.